Hey guys, as the title of the video suggests, these are times the RuneScape community fought back in a sense. Videos have been done before covering top 10 riots and so on. I feel like I can make this video different by still talking about some of the riots, but also include instances where someone in the community was doing something wrong, and the community spoke up about it and got action taken. Let's go. In the morning hours of January 2nd, 2007, an update was made to Rule 7. Rule 7 prohibits the use of third-party software to obtain an unfair advantage in the game. Normally, this rule was directed at botters and malicious programs. However, the third-party client SwiftSwitch, which would later become SwiftKit, had a quick world hopper built into the client. Jagex saw this as an unfair advantage. They also had other issues with the client, such as potentially endangering their players' accounts. Keep in mind the game at this point required the player to log completely out of the game and go back out into the world select screen if they wanted to change worlds. Another strategy was to simply reload Runescape, then go forward a few pages to the world select screen. On slower computers with dial-up internet, this ate up a few minutes at a time and was really annoying. When the tweak was made to Rule 7, the wording was as follows. We have updated Rule 7 and Rule 9 to clarify some long-standing gray areas and to cover some recent threats. Please take the time to reread both rules and make sure you fully understand them. The reason for this update is both to clarify some frequently asked questions and also to help address recent threats which have been harming our players. In particular, we have extended Rule 7 to make it clear that it does now include third-party RuneScape clients / world switchers. In their news post, Jagex went on to say that RuneScape fan sites were distributing programs where 50% of the chat channels were being used to discuss breaking the rules of the game or trying to scam players. It's unclear where they got this 50% metric from. The last statement was more than likely aimed at SwiftSwitch and its various IRC chat channels. In the same post, Jagex referenced MSN and AIM and recommended against using those while playing due to the abuse and scamming potential, further showing their distrust of any third-party programs whatsoever. I can understand their distrust as around this time scamming and account hacking was very common and there were plenty of untrustworthy individuals lurking around the community. SwiftSwitch had officially been banned from seeing use after this statement made by Jagex. All over RuneScape and on fan sites, news of the client ban spread fast. On fan sites, players organized riots that would mainly be in Falador in both members and free-to-play worlds. The player base mobilized to Falador to let their opinions be known. Some players also showed up to voice their support for the creator of the client Strider. There were some players that supported Jagex in their decision, and some were there to simply rile up the angry crowd by taking an opposing stance on the issue. Players took to setting up the traditional Dwarf multi-cannon, spamming a plethora of twos, lighting fires, and voicing their anger in general. The riot spread out even further into weird areas such as Ice Plateau and the Wilderness. Players in Falador were group teleporting people to the Ice Plateau, with some people in the pictures and video footage asking to be teleported there. The world that was mainly used for the riot, World 27, was at capacity for long durations during the stretch of the riot. J-mods arrived in Falador trying to calm players down and were met with vitriol and spam directed towards them. Their efforts to calm down the crowd were highly ineffective. This riot has an important place in RuneScape as it is one of the few riots that actually managed to sway Jagex's decision. Jagex decided to overturn their decision on SwiftSwitch as long as some conditions were met. As part of a compromise between Strider and Jagex, SwiftSwitch was rebranded into SwiftKit. It was pretty much SwiftSwitch but without the world hopper. There were other minor changes required as well, such as resolution changes that disallowed vertical scrolling. This change was made so players could not scroll down and block the old banner advertisements on F2P worlds that appeared above the game. SwiftKit was also required to state that the IRC chat at the bottom of the client was not an official RuneScape client. The compliments section of the RuneScape forums filled up with praise toward Jagex's ability to take constructive criticism, and most players seemed happy with the end result of this riot. This, unfortunately, was not the end of Jagex versus third-party clients, but we'll get to that later. The next entry isn't a riot, but the community did in fact come together and fight. It's also pretty recent, at least the end result is. I'm going to summarize the situation as there are lengthier videos that are specifically about this individual that I'll briefly show up on screen now. It involves a guy by the name of McCune. McCune performed numerous lures, scams, sold adult pictures of a woman for RuneScape GP without her knowledge, made some hateful statements within his Discord, and on a lesser note, ragged players going for the Scorpio pet and tried to charge them 500 mil for safety. The latter part is minor in my opinion, it's just more of being an annoying pest. Through researching the name McCune, I came across multiple accounts for botting and gold selling websites. Apparently, McCune scammed thousands of dollars via chargeback scams from 2014 and a few years beyond, then tried to ban evade by creating alt accounts to more than likely scam again. This post looks like a request to be unbanned made by McCune. The admin said he would have to pay back his victims for that, and it looks like he ghosted them. Each of the links I scrolled past are stories of encounters with McCune and how they were scammed. I know this is what would be considered by some as a black market website. I'm only including it as it illustrates his willingness and determination to scam others, even if it's out of thousands of dollars. It's also been said that he later blackmailed that same woman for more pictures to sell for 15 million OSRSGP each. OSRS being old school RuneScape. I'm sure most of you know that, but I'm just throwing that in. He would have continued to be an absolute menace had the RuneScape community not stepped up, multiple times in fact. Around the middle of 2022, some of McCune's actions came to light via the old school RuneScape content creator Hanani in their video, McCune, RuneScape's most deplorable monster. The video is worth a watch if you haven't checked it out and want to see a more in-depth, targeted focus on just McCune and some of his actions. Following this, a Reddit post blew up regarding the video and McCune. It garnered over thousands of upvotes and gained a great bit of traction. Nothing ever truly came of it though. The best thing that came out of it was information of McCune's actions spreading so that people could avoid him via word of mouth. Around the same time, Eliop14, who is best known for his Deep Wilderness PKing videos on YouTube, came out with the video How I Lured McCune, RuneScape's biggest scammer, further spreading information of some of McCune's actions. Thanks to Annie and Eliop's videos, tons of people in the community were starting to learn who this McCune guy was, and to put it short, they didn't like him and they wanted him out of the community. 6 months after Hanani and Eliop's videos, the popular RuneScape YouTuber A Friend brought McCune's actions to light again while also discussing a player named Hard. Hard was one of McCune's buddies that had scammed a friend and his group out of a split. Hard was known as a notorious scammer within the community. After digging around in his comments section, he learned that McCune was a good friend of Hard. This caused him to look deeper into McCune, where he quickly found out what a dirtbag he is. A Friend has at least 3 videos discussing McCune, all of which gained a good deal of traction and are worth a watch. The result of A Friend's video titled You Allow This Behavior in Your Game, Jagex became the topic of discussion on 2000scape Reddit, with a post being made with the video attached. The post gained thousands of upvotes, and players started vocally stating that both Hard and McCune should be banned. The players gathered in World 2 Falador to draw more attention to the matter. McCune and Hard both showed up at the gathering in World 2. In some of the pictures, McCune can be seen trying to explain some of his actions and brush off blame in the chat. His excuses were in vain and the pair were banned shortly afterwards. A Jmod Madaiza posted a reply in the comments of the Reddit post stating that the pair were in fact banned and there would be more developments in the following days. At least 3 known people were banned, McCune, Hard, and one member of their luring group. I wouldn't be surprised if they were still lurking on alt accounts somewhere, still up to no good. Adding this voiceover later is I found something interesting on his YouTube channel, that being McCune. The last video is from around 1 month ago, which is around the time of the ban. In the comments, he recently replied to a few people saying a new video was coming. I checked back every few days on the channel while making this video to see if something new was uploaded, and I wasn't disappointed. He uploaded a video just a few days ago at the time of posting this video titled The Truth About McCune, where he tries to debunk some of the accusations against him. In the comments, he also stated that himself and Hard are not permanently banned from the game. Now, whatever you believe or whoever you believe in this situation, the result of the controversy was indeed the community fighting back. On September 6, 2021, a player known within the community as 117 was set to release his project he had been working on for close to 2 years. His project was a HD plugin that could be used with the popular old-school RuneScape client RuneLite. As the name suggests, it made the entire game appear in HD when activated. Just when it was about to be released, Jagex sent 117 a message telling him to stop development and to not release it. The following day, the 7th, Jagex confirmed the latter with an update on their homepage. The issue was Jagex knew about the ongoing development for close to 2 years before its intended release, and then they decided to squash the project when it was within hours of releasing. The community thought it seemed petty and intentional to let 117 work on the project for around 2 years and then kill it at the 11th hour when they could have killed it immediately or shortly after some deliberation, which would have saved 117's time. Jagex stated that they had plans to release their own HD client and did not want a third party doing it. They additionally tacked on that third-party clients were being utilized by bots as a sort of defense. The wasted time and slap in the face to 117 was the biggest issue the community had with the whole ordeal, while some players simply just wanted an HD client and were mad that it wasn't getting released. The combination of these two viewpoints led to rioting in Falador. Hundreds of players were in Falador. They gathered in the square, they circled the pub, they gathered inside the pub, they gathered upstairs inside the pub. Not even the giant mole was safe from the rioters. Countless forum posts, Reddit posts, and angry messages were sent to Jagex and various Jagex moderators during the whole ordeal. JMods, being the messengers and the most accessible, got the brunt of the community's anger. On September 8, 2021, just one day after the riots began, Jagex posted another update reverting their decision to shut down RuneLite HD. However, most players were not fully satisfied as Jagex stated they were going to allow RuneLite HD to act as a bridge until their own HD client was released, meaning that once Jagex's HD version would be released, RuneLite HD would be in jeopardy again. But that's the last thing we've heard on this situation from Jagex directly. The riots continued based on the bridge statement, but in far fewer numbers. Some players felt that this statement was simply not good enough. However, the riots eventually fizzled out completely in the days following the 8th. The community had fought back and ultimately got what they wanted, for now. Wildy owns 1, also known as Return of Wilderness after the Return of Wilderness in February of 2011, is a very infamous player. I have a whole video over this guy, so I'll keep the summary fairly short and get you guys caught up if you don't know about him. Wildy owns 1 was a famous PKer in 2006 and 2007 until the Wilderness was removed from the game. He stopped playing for an unspecified amount of time once the Wilderness was removed in late 2007. He remained somewhat popular upon returning in 2011. To put it short, he started scamming his viewers, fans, and other players in general. He basically used his in-game popularity to take full advantage of people. For some reason, if someone has a decent number of subscribers, people tend to trust them more. I personally don't get it, as anybody can be a scumbag regardless of numbers. After 2011 and beyond, his scamming tendencies ramped up. He scammed/lured countless players. Him and his buddy threatened to put explosives in a scam victim's home when he didn't get them more GP.
Put his account up on there. Let's
Michael.
talk about it.
Okay, let's talk business now, Michael. Let's get straight to the fucking
Hasn't
point.
been on it since for 2 years, but
Michael,
Yeah.
get on there. Let's stop wasting time. I don't really want to fuck about you.
I want to wish you a great evening.
if you leave, I will send a bomb to your house.
If you send a bomb to my house, I'm in Switzerland. Nobody has a bomb here.
To prove he wasn't a scammer, he wanted to do a party hat trust trade on stream with another player. He stole the party hat.
Let me just... Alright, sweet dude.
This guy was the supervillain of Runescape for years and one of the most hated players in the history of the game. People had enough and were tired of his BS. They had been tired of his BS for years. When his main account, Wildy Owens 1, was finally banned in 2016 for breaking in-game rules, people celebrated. He also managed to lose his YouTube channel twice, with the latter time being permanent due to copyright infringement. Which admittedly is a weird reason, but it shows how badly Jagex wanted him out of the community, due to how much he scammed and advertised shady websites. Most of the player base cheered about the channel ban, especially RuneScape content creators, as now they wouldn't be getting harassed in their comments section by him to promote private servers and gold selling sites, among other things.
Bitch, you wanna make some motherfucking money? What?
For a good while, anytime Return of Wilderness popped up again on a new account, it was reported to Jagex within a few days and banned, if not immediately. He became desperate. He got frustrated and threatened Jagex with a lawsuit unless they unbanned his main account. It didn't work. He started spam tweeting at any notable figures on YouTube as well as drama channels such as Drama Alert and others to get some controversy going. This was more than likely an attempt to put pressure on Jagex and YouTube to unban his accounts. It didn't work. Ever since 2016, he's been relegated to a somewhat smaller YouTube channel where he does gambling live streams. Typically, anytime a decent-sized YouTube channel mentions him to the community in their videos, he changes his YouTube name. It seems to be the same channel, just renamed multiple times. I first caught wind of it a few years ago when it was named RuneScape Gold, then it was named something like RuneScape 2020, then RuneScape 2021, and so on. Now it goes by the name RuneScape Wheels, where he does his RuneScape gambling live streams. The RuneScape community hasn't fully gotten rid of Return of Wilderness even to this day, and I don't think they ever will. He seems to hang around like a bad fart no matter what happens. If the game plummeted in popularity in the next decade and there were only 2 people left online, it would be Return of Wilderness trying desperately to scam the other guy left on the game. December 10th, 2007, probably within the top 3 most controversial updates in the history of RuneScape, the removal of free trade and the wilderness. This one is also sometimes called the We Pay to PK Riot, Wilderness Removal Riot, or Free Trade Riot. It has many names. As the name suggests, Jagex decided to remove player killing from the wilderness and replace PKers with revenants. In addition, they announced their plans to put a trade limit on players. This was an attempt to battle real-world trading and botters in general. Players were losing out on the traditional wilderness experience and also what they could do via the trade window. No more lending items out to friends and no more helping newer players. It also seemingly killed services such as running nature runes and law runes. Some players felt that a part of what made RuneScape, well, RuneScape was going to die with this update. Many players were upset. Rumors were started that I actually believed before researching this video, such as teenagers throwing bricks through Jagex HQ. This is untrue and never happened, at least around this time. PKing clans dissolved overnight, and players took to Falador World 66 to riot. Phrases such as "we pay, we PK," and "no PK, no play," "no kills, no bills," "we pay, we say," and "bring old RS back" were seen above players' heads, among other things. Some player moderators showed up in World 66, 18, and 69 where the riots were held and tried to quell the riots, while other player modders actually joined in with the rioters, something that isn't typically seen. This shows how controversial these updates were. The riot spilled out into the party room outside of the city and in the various buildings throughout Falador. Items were dropped, usually spelling out PK, cannons were set up, mithril seeds were planted, and fires were lit. Players held mass log-offs around midnight, dropping the players online to only 4,000 at one point. Meanwhile, the RuneScape forums were being flooded with text art, rant posts, and general spam. The sticky thread discussing the changes reached 40,000 posts in 2 days, with most of that being angry feedback. The forums were being flooded consistently with high volumes of traffic, causing the forums to go completely offline a handful of times during the riots. The riot dwindled as the 17th drew closer, eventually ending on that date minus a few stragglers. It's estimated that between 30 to 40,000 members quit the game as a direct result of these updates. That number is obviously not including free-to-play players that stopped playing. The update went through and remained in the game for a little over 3 years until it was reversed in February of 2011. Oh man, last but not least, the most controversial update in the game arguably. The evolution of combat caused tens of thousands of paying members to quit the game and angered even more than that. Many people cite EOC as the update that killed the game to the point where a reboot had to be made in the form of old school RuneScape for Jagex to recoup some of their losses. The EOC beta was met with tons of criticism due to its rushed state, the changing of fundamental gameplay, the action bar, the many items rendered useless that were once key items, and the biased polling leading up to its release. YouTube videos from the RuneScape channel around this time had a horrible like to dislike ratio. People were angry to say the least. Players joined various JMod friends chats to voice their displeasure with the update. Players begged for Jagex to not go through with the update via YouTube videos and forum posts. Jagex did not listen. At this point, they had already invested hundreds of hours into planning EOC and were not going to go back. EOC was the future in their eyes. The community fought hard against the update from the moment it was announced. The community fought via the RuneScape forums as well as in-game for days, weeks, and even months. As the November release was drawing closer, players realized Jagex was going to go through with bringing the evolution of combat to RuneScape. On September 1st, 2012, F2P players gathered in World 1 Falador while members gathered in World 2 at the Grand Exchange to protest the update and demand an old school server. The riot is unique in the fact that Jagex actually performed an area mute around the Grand Exchange for roughly an hour to shut the player base up. Players in the area were only able to use quick chat. This is the first and only time Jagex has taken such measures to my knowledge. The latter fact illustrates how high tensions were between Jagex and the frustrated player base. The initial riot fizzled out by September 3rd. The riots reignited with the release of the update on November 20th of the same year, but with the update already live, it ended without having much impact. Prices of key PVM items plummeted to all-time lows, and the core game never fully recovered to its previous player numbers. Friendships were lost in the midst of the splitting player base, and tens of thousands of players quit the game completely, with some never to return to the game even to this day. Some people, including Jagex themselves, have said rioting does nothing and is just spam and nonsense. I used to agree with that sentiment, however it has been proven multiple times that while spamming on a virtual character in the middle of Falador by itself does nothing, the spreading of the controversies via word of mouth that are paired with the rioting via online media outlets and social media do create a sort of pressure for action to be taken. As proven with the McCune situation, as well as both the Swift Switch and RuneLite HD situations, having hundreds of thousands of eyes on an issue does cause things to be resolved quicker than they would be without that pressure and vocalization. But that's about all I have for you guys. I know there are more riots and controversies, but I tried to hit up the biggest ones while also mixing in the community, taking down some of Runescape's baddest apples to make it different than other rioting videos. This is the Runescape Historian checking out. Peace guys, take care of yourselves.